Won't take Adams officially.
Adam's officially not here.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Is there any public comment on any subject not on the agenda that the board has jurisdiction over? Hearing none, we'll move on. Has everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes?
Yep.
Are there any corrections or additions?
Nope.
Hearing none, they'll stand approved as read, or as printed.
There was one.
Oh, you have one? Okay.
Under the engineering update, there was a bullet there that says they will dial in on far behind. They are.
Oh, how far?
Okay, yeah,
How
okay.
far? Thank you.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Yep,
I just
how far
caught
behind they are in the front.
the wording, yeah, it was a little,
Yep,
okay,
Okay.
great.
thank you.
That's
I'll-
it,
I'll
that's the
correct
only one that
Okay.
I got.
You'll take care of that, Aubrey?
it. Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Robert Pescian Associates, update.
For the record, Lance Bowser, Robert Pescian Associates. So, yeah, the project's looking great. They are running a little behind schedule still. They probably caught, since Mary was here, we thought they were running 3 to 3.5 weeks behind a month ago. They're probably running about 2.5 weeks behind, maybe 2. It's looking good. Paving is going really well. Test results have gone really well. So the first day of paving, we test a lot, pave a little, and then they start full production. Runway's done. Apron's most of the way done. They'll finish the apron mostly this week. Then they have a day, maybe 2 next week to finish the taxi lanes. Pulling their way out. They're essentially paving their way out so that the trucks aren't driving back over top of the fresh mats. So they're working on dressing up the shoulders with the gravel and topsoil, trying to get the runway completed first and then move back. We're probably, contractors optimistic that they might finish by next week, but I just don't see that happening. I think it's going to be the following week before we can reopen. It's not that we couldn't rush maybe and get the runway reopened, but then if they broke up the slab in front of the fuel system, so they cut that out. I think they cut it out today, and they're going to try and place it. We got the tie downs to put in the apron. They'll come back, core those, vac truck them, place them. It just starts to get to be too much to want to be open, and so I'm thinking it's not going to be end next week, but the following week, which should be like the 9th of September, I think. Don't quote me on that date. I'd have to look at the calendar.
You think about the 9th of September could be open?
Yep,
Right.
I think so, and I think that's pretty realistic. We do still have a couple items that are outstanding. The PAPI and beacon equipment, we've been having problems with these since COVID. They haven't come in, so we're probably going to have to open with NOTAMs that we don't have a beacon, we don't have PAPIs. They ordered them on time. It's just that's how far behind everybody is with equipment delays. So PAPI beacon, and then after we open, we still will have final paint and seed fertilize and mulch. We don't seed until after October 15th. It's kind of state seeding guidelines. We don't want the seed to germinate, because if it pops and it's immature, it'll die this winter. So we want to lay it down after October 15th. By then it's cool enough that the seed won't germinate this year. It'll lay dormant through the winter and then pop next spring. So we'll still have paint, and then the final paint we don't do until 30 days after asphalt completion. So we'll put down temporary runway striping, center line and numbers. We won't put taxiway striping down. After 30 days, we'll come back and repaint the white again, and then we'll paint all the yellow. So there'll be a couple of days closure for that after we open back up, but we'll coordinate that with Dwight and make sure we provide as much notice as we can to the whole board.
Okay, sounds great.
Other than that, everything's really looking good out there quantity-wise. Everything's we didn't run into anything. They're running over quantity on asphalt, So we're tracking some of that, just to document some where it is at. It looks like they paved about 62 feet wide, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to pay you for 62 feet wide. You don't have to cut it off, but you're going to get paid for 60 foot. So they're going to have to survey that so that we can document how much tonnage is going to get deducted from that. So otherwise, everything's looking really good out there. We did have one change order pending, which is the sprinkler system that's around the electrical enclosure.
I was out there today with Shane. He's a guy that I know. And we looked at it, and there's one zone that wasn't tore up. So in his professional opinion, it was pretty much a redo, because by the time you try and piece everything back together, it would take more time to piece it back together than to pull new pipe to everything.
That's kind of what
So
we were thinking.
his estimate ballpark is, he said he could probably reuse, if it was him to do it, which I don't know with the bidding process, but his estimate was probably in between $11,000 and $12,000 to redo the sprinkler system because of the new everything that's posted in there in the new building. So to pull pipes and then account for around all those buildings, it was about 11 to 12 on the high side, as long as there wasn't any extra stuff with it. So
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, in a project this size, if we have underrun on the rest of this stuff, which may or may not pan out, the oil was a little higher than what we had anticipated in the asphalt. We estimate that at the beginning of the project. We may actually still end up with an underrun on the project overall. Regarding the bidding process, it's a change order through the contractor, so the contractor can choose to hire that person. Does Mary or the contractor have his contact information?
probably not. He's
I'll get that
for
from
the
you.
for the record. He's a friend of mine, so it's but
It's up to the contractor.
Yeah.
They have to, and then we have to document the pricing. They have to change orders. You don't just
Sure.
get to throw out a price. We need to know labor, materials, estimated hours, full breakdown, so that we can evaluate reasonableness of it.
yeah. And I could email. I can get contact info to you or Mary, and they can.
That'd be
probably
perfect.
Put it on.
And then contractor.
If there's
can
a
decide.
problem, it's the contractor that has to face it, so.
Yep, exactly. But I can still provide it. I mean,
Yeah.
to them, and then they can decide. So, perfect. That's really all I have, unless you all have questions for me.
Looking good.
I have a question on
Yeah.
in front of the fuel tank. Are they going to replace that with concrete or asphalt?
Concrete.
Concrete. Okay.
Yep. It wasn't reinforced, so we're gonna throw some reinforcing in there.
Throw some bar in there.
Yeah. So we'll put a little reinforcing in there just in case it cracks again. There were some cracks in it to begin with, but they were pretty small.
Probably put in
They
there. but
busted it up and they only wanted to replace half of the panel, and I was like, no way, you're not replacing half of a panel. It's a little tiny strip of concrete. You're gonna replace the whole panel, cut it back at the joint. So
Probably put in with a Calvary.
yeah. So anyway, they'll do a good job, and they have done a really good job. They're just running a little behind schedule, but everything's looking great. I really like the look of the asphalt matte. It looks good, and that oil that they put in the asphalt is actually a bump graded oil, which the reason why they utilized it is because they had an FAA mix design that they used on Deer Lodge, and they wanted to reuse that, even though it was a more expensive mix than what we needed for heavier aircraft. That doesn't serve a huge benefit as far as the heavier aircraft, but it's a polymer modified oil, and those polymer modified oils are behaving a lot better long term with freeze thaw cycles. And they're
A
just
little bit of
lasting longer.
flexibility there.
There's more flexibility in that polymer, and it's just we used to see some cracks in pavements that would show up and be this wide. We're just not seeing that in polymer modified asphalt. So
Good.
I'm really happy about that, and the mat looks good. They did a good job. Helena Sand did a good, or Montana Materials, I think is now their name. So
Yeah.
they did a good job too. So
I
Yeah.
couldn't see from the highway, and I didn't have a chance to go over there, but I was pretty sure that they were paving because the semi's been slopping stuff off their mud flaps all the way up the highway going towards Helena.
oh yeah, probably
Well,
Them
toward White
chunks,
Sulphur, too.
chunks of asphalt about like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Probably driving on the prime coat that we have out there that's on and then picking up rocks. But yeah, anyway, it looks good. If you have a
Yeah.
chance to swing out there, Mary, who's been there full time, she's actually going to get shipped to Hamilton starting next week. So
Wow.
another project manager, Matt Wilder, and myself are going to finish out the inspection out there so that she can go up to our another project that's set to start up next Monday. So she's done a great job
Yeah.
out there with them though.
Yeah,
So-
give her our thanks.
Yeah.
And she really has done a good job.
Yeah, she's on it. She's very picky.
Yeah.
So that's a good
That's what we
thing.
like.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you.
If you're not picky, you have to answer questions later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you, Lance. Okay, the next item on the list is review discussion decision on hangar lease requests.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, has been no lease requests.
Okay. So just gonna leave that on for next month?
Yes, we
Oh.
usually leave it on just because if it's not on there and somebody shows up, we can't make a decision on it.
Okay. Update on hangar certificates of insurance.
Okay, so I sent an email out. I had Adam and Deb approve the wording. I sent you guys an email about that and my spreadsheet that I made to check off who replied pretty rapidly. Then I was at the 7th of August. Then I followed up with a letter and sent them on Monday with the same exact information. And I'm just waiting for the rest of them. And I put the certificate date of renewal. And I think I should probably put the hangar number because I need to start learning the hangar numbers. Dwight, did you change the hangar numbers out there?
We did 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because some of them didn't have hangar numbers, right? Or they did and they...
Was
Well,
like
there
ordered-
Some of them had multiple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some had two, some of them were doubled up.
Okay. so
That
can
was
you-
all corrected though, right?
Yeah,
Dwight, okay, could you double check you made a document that I have here and I have it. Would you double check to make sure I have the right hangar numbers?
Okay.
Would you, it's a document that you created and then
Yeah.
I added the hangar numbers on the,
Okay.
and the date, the lease dates, also the dates of their leases.
okay.
Does anybody have any questions about and then I've just been filing them electronically and also filing them at the courthouse as I receive them, the certificates of insurance. Does anybody have any
Nope.
questions?
Sounds good.
Will you send me the hangar numbers? Our airport layout plan, we kind of just number them 2, 4, 6, and
Do you have
we
one for
usually
hangar
have
13
Alpha,
by chance?
Bravo, Charlie, based on the taxiways,
Okay.
but all number ours the same as yours. That way you have a
I don't
map.
have to forward it on then.
There's no specific reason.
It helps when we only use one system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think the more we keep it consistent,
Yeah, easier.
the better.
So on this topic, the other thing was I remember seeing an email go by that Adam was checking into, what insurance companies recommended that people carry on hangar insurance, and they bumped it to $1 million in terms of liability, in terms of what they recommended. So that's something, to consider, and I guess we need to consider that at the airport as well. I think I mentioned, at Three Forks, they're requiring us to carry $2 million in terms of liability. And so, I don't know whether that's something we need to spend some time addressing, in terms of, what we could be liable for in the case of a situation where there is an event that's in excess of 1,000, since, inflation and all that, you're looking at, potentially, significantly more liability. And I think we're carrying $1 million for the airport, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah, looking at that. So we have $1 million for the airport for, I think each occurrence in aggregate is $1 million, if I remember correctly on that, so.
Can you clarify, I guess, why, if a person has a hangar and they have the insurance policy on the building, they also have insurance on their aircraft inside or whatever they have inside, why would we need to carry $1 million or $2 million? What would be the point of that?
There was a case that went down in Gallatin County where essentially the individual that owned the hangar incurred costs associated with the accident that occurred that was well in excess of $1 million.
So, are you
when-
saying like an aircraft accident happened, hit the hangar, and caused?
No, this was a personal liability issue in terms of non-aircraft related injuries having to do with, I think it was a hangar door. And so what ended up happening was once that insurance was insufficient on the part of the individual, they went after the county. And the county got stuck for the bill. And so the county decided that, that we need to carry and basically indemnify them for an additional amount up to $2 million. Now, I think that's excessive, just based on, what I'm seeing at other airports around the country and around Montana. But I think $1 million is not unreasonable based upon, the types of lawsuits that are coming down these days. So that, and further, when Adam reached out to their, the insurance broker, I guess, that covers the airport, asking whether they recommended a different level of liability, they recommended $1 million on each hangar owner carrying $1 million and indemnifying the airport, as part of that policy.
So the individual would have $1 million, and then the airport
Has
in
$1
general
million.
has
Have a
$1
blanket
million.
policy.
Yeah. And the first $1 million is not expensive. I mean, that,
Yeah, I remember that conversation from last.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just trying to, understand if a hangar is only, you could rebuild it for whatever, 100,000 or,
Yeah.
Now it's 200,000 or whatever, but the importance of having $1 million, but.
yeah, it wasn't really related to the loss of the hangar, it was related to liability relating to injury of an individual.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, so it was a personal liability.
The county chose not to fight that though, because
They lost.
Did they
fought
really
it-
lose?
They fought and lost.
Interesting.
They didn't have as good an attorney as the
It's been a
person.
ferocious
Lance,
ambulance
I don't
chaser.
know, if you have any experience to comment or think about?
Yeah, a lot of
what
times
you've seen?
in the insurance, I'll see forms come out of their airport's insurance carriers that'll ask how many operations, what's the most expensive or largest aircraft that utilizes your airport, and they use that form to recommend how much coverage. So like Ennis might have a higher insurance at the airport than what your insurance carrier might recommend for Townsend.
Sure.
And I see that form quite a bit from different insurance carriers, so it must be becoming somewhat industry standard. I used to just see it on occasion, and now I see it popping up and they'll send it to me, and I said, well, you can look this data up. Like, but I usually just fill them out. And, it's the insurance at the airport is for, it'd really be for potentially transient aircraft that are utilizing your airport. Something's wrong, they crash, you get sued. So, it's common. Outside of that, if you have questions, there's a guy on the Madison County Board that's an insurance rep, so I usually ask him.
Yeah, no, that was just good to have your
Yeah.
thoughts and input. I hadn't heard about that letter that comes out.
Yeah, I just got one from Park County here.
Huh.
I think, I don't know, within the last month
I'll be darned.
that I filled out for Gardner, Wilsall, and Livingston.
Could be a pretty good size suit coming out for Kalispell City after that TBM 700.
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
I didn't read the accident report, but there's been a bunch of them. West Yellowstone had some this year. There's been a bunch of them here
The
recently.
TBM 700 come down, I don't know, I think he's just freaked out.
Well,
He did maintain runway heading and he come down and clipped aircraft on the way down.
well,
they
what
were
happened
parked.
was he stalled out,
Yeah,
landed on the left gear, broke it off, which put a hole in the wing, which then got fuel spewing
jet
out, which
fuel
caught
burning.
fire, and then he ran into a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
And then they walked away, which was really good.
that was really good.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's from Pullman, Washington. We're talking sea level. And they come to Montana and they got to land in the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be a lot of the recent accidents by some of the stuff I've
It's
been
the
reading.
altitude.
But yeah,
And
It's the
getting
altitude.
excited instead of paying attention, put it on
I'll
the
be
ground.
real curious about Kalispell
Oh.
City specifically because they turned that over to essentially a airport user group that I think Kalispell City kind of
washed
washed
their
their
hands
hands of running the airport. So they kind of semi turned it over to like almost like a subdivision that was going to own and operate
co-op.
the airport for them. And I'm curious what coverage they had. I don't have any idea, but it'll be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah.
So that TBM 700 should have some pretty healthy insurance by itself.
Yeah. So,
Maybe.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, may I read something? Did all of you read the responses from Julie Zaparian from the insurance?
From
I
which?
did, but
Oh.
can you refresh my memory? 'Cause
Well,
it was a little while.
The other thing about it is the comprehensive general liability. Comprehensive general liability language is no longer used, which is in your lease. It should be airport premises liability. 1 million is the preferred amount coverage, but not less than 500,000 and include 25,000 or more for damage to rented leased hangars. So that's what she is in the answering of the
Mhm.
wording in your lease as well. So just
Right.
FYI,
Yeah.
since you're going to be issuing new leases here.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay, we're
So
up
do we
to
need
the,
to make a motion and move on this? Or do
No.
we want
Yeah,
to
we
table
can.
it till next? I mean, if we're gonna start getting new leases coming in, once this is closed, we probably should have this nailed down.
We won't do any new leases until it's complete though, will we?
Right.
So we could table it until next time, hear Adam's opinion, so we have the full board.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually, I don't think we can move on it because it's just an update.
Yeah.
There's no discussion, there's no decision on the.
yeah, we can't do anything until it's on the
certificates of
agenda
insurance.
to,
So, yeah, we have
address.
to wait till next month. to
And
actually be
Mr.
able to-
Chairman, you also decided to table the discussion of informing your people about how the process, to be tabled that as well.
Mhm.
Till September? Or, okay.
Yep.
It wasn't on this agenda, so I'm assuming that,
okay, Rob brought in a
Yeah, so.
brochure here. You want to go with, explain it, Rob?
I'm not going to go into incredible detail on this because everybody can read it, but what I did was in looking at, the overall issue that we were discussing, I think it was really driven by concern about derelict aircraft. And so in looking around the country, I was interested in looking at, the tie-down fees, penalties, and what provisions are made for derelict aircraft. When I reviewed this, I did a web search, went through and found what I could in terms of documents related to these issues. And, Montana, Nevada, Colorado, Washington, Delaware, Illinois, Ohio, Virginia, and California all had documents that I was able to access. And then looking at fees where airports are charging tie-down fees, they broke it down into essentially daily rates and monthly rates. In the smaller airports, we were looking at daily rates that were nothing. And an example of that is Columbus in Montana, where the first 7 days are free. After that, they begin charging. And so in Columbus, it was $16 a day after a week. But at other airports that were in these different states, the rates were up to $10 a day for aircraft that were below 12,500 pounds, and then only $25 a day, 12,500 pounds and up. And so it's really based on aircraft size. Monthly rates were anywhere from 15 to 50 for single engines, and then they upped it to 15 to 60 on multi-engines, just based upon the number of engines. And then an example would be, this Boulder City, Nevada, where essentially they were charging $10 and $25 for their daily rates, and then $50 and $60 for single versus multi-engine for monthly tie-down rates. And then further, which was very helpful, was to look at essentially provisions for use of tie-down areas. And the example I picked out, because it was really nicely comprehensive, was Auburn, California. And so essentially what they're doing is laying out what they believe is the relationship between the aircraft owner and the airport. And so in the transient airport tie-downs, they were looking at owners utilizing the spaces on first-come, first-served basis. The tie-downs were provided for a parking area that they would not exceed 7 days in these particular locations. They had these marked, essentially with blue crosses. They always had to remain airworthy and operational, and if they become inoperative and deemed unweathered at any point, the aircraft would be relocated to a city licensed repair facility for the aircraft repair, or aircraft storage area, or private hangar. And then essentially the city decides, in terms of whether you can get an extension for transient aircraft based upon clause. And so those were essentially, where you're looking at transient individuals. Long-term tie-downs, essentially there was a fee on a monthly basis, and it was subject to the conditions on the next page, where essentially they are designated according to a specific policy that's laid out in their lease. And then they had, essentially a set of conditions for the rent and fees and other charges associated with that, with due dates and dates at which, beyond which the payment was late. And then there would be issues in terms of non-payment resulting in a default. And then you look at the release agreement for what happens from that point forward. And then, moving on to other issues, if you have a tie-down that you're paying for and someone purchases your aircraft, it doesn't necessarily immediately go over to that individual, because if there's limited space, which we don't have a problem with, but that's something they were bringing up. They brought up issues of having lock boxes where you could actually keep oil and other types of things next to your aircraft. And then issues with vehicle parking when the aircraft was, being flown, and they had limitations on the time the vehicle could remain parked in a particular location. And then they get into issues having to do with derelict or damaged aircraft in terms of the requirement for repair, whether they could be done at the tie-down ramp or had to be removed and towed. And then derelict aircraft, they had flat tires or cracked windshields or missing engines, propellers, and airframes, making them unworthy. 30 days was the limit that they came up with there. So that's essentially a point where once you've defined this in a lease arrangement, you then have the ability to act upon whatever they are failing to do according to the agreement. And then the issue of preventative maintenance and how that's done, and the ability to do preventative maintenance actually at the tie-down site, in addition to it being moved to a hangar or a business where the aircraft repairs are normally done, and essentially putting limitations on the period of time that the aircraft would be away and under or at the site being under some sort of repair condition. And then essentially issues having to do with the appearance of the airport, the removal of derelicts or damaged or abandoned aircraft. They can move them as a result of the agreement they've essentially established in the lease. And And then the tenant can also, respond and actually move the aircraft to a long-term storage area. And so there is a continued payment associated with that. And then there's also the city reserving the right to move the aircraft to a different tie-down or long-term storage area for good reason under a section within the lease agreement. And then there's a prohibition of abandoning aircraft, and so essentially the aircraft will be considered abandoned after 60 days of non-payment of rent, fees, or other charges. And so these are all ways in which you essentially have a relationship with the owner of the aircraft, between the essentially the management of the airport and the aircraft owner that allows you to take action should the aircraft become a derelict. And just to summarize, the way I saw all this after reading through everything, I'll just read it. Many airports have tie-down lease agreements so the airport managers and boards have ready access to the owner's contact information, have the ability to act upon the changing conditions on the airport or the condition of the aircraft. Fees can be set that are reflective of the relative value of the lease space to fees charged to hangar owners. For example, a hangar that's 42 by 40, that's 1,680 square feet. If the owner is paying $250 a year, ground lease would be equivalent in terms of square footage to for 172 of $150 a year, $12.55 a month for the amount of square footage that the aircraft is actually sitting on. Because essentially, when you're looking at a hangar, you're looking at a ground lease, so you're paying essentially for the use of that ground. In the tie-down situation, you're looking for the use of the ground that essentially is a rectangle around your airplane based upon the dimensions of the aircraft. And so, in Columbus, they're just setting that to $16 per month with that first 7 days free. So essentially, the lease agreement also provides a means to deal with an issue of derelict aircraft as spelled out in the lease agreements and the provisions for use of the airport tie-down spaces. And so that essentially sums up the research I did and where we sit. And so I think at that point, I felt that it would be appropriate for us to consider the possibility of having a lease arrangement with aircraft that are actually on the airport for long term, and that way we actually have a means of easily contacting the owner. And the rates are not onerous. I mean,
the rates are just fine.
At a very reasonable rate to park an aircraft, but it gives you then legal ability to act upon changes if you need to move the aircraft as a result of snow or something like that.
It also opens the door to derelict aircraft.
Precisely. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that.
Lance?
Can I provide a comment?
Sure.
Please.
So I'd be a little careful with leases. The apron is public space. It cannot be near exclusive or exclusive use because it was funded with public funds and FAA funds. So if you say somebody's tied down there, they have a month-long lease or 2-month-long lease, and they go fly, somebody else flies in, that's open space. Mm-hmm. Somebody else can tie down there.
So can you do it like a campground lease, where it's just you drop your $14 in the bin?
Yeah, fees, absolutely. You can have tie-down fees.
And then you just
But
put
that,
some of this language up on the board where they have to put it in, or put it in their pamphlet where they drop it in.
yeah, so there's just that
Acknowledging it.
balance of like a campground fee.
Yeah.
You fill out the information, you're tying down for 7 days, here's your fee. But having like a formally structured lease that they say, I want to lease that space for 2 years, that may be an option at some airports if they build their own pavements. So if Broadwater County goes and builds some apron pavements, you guys can do as you see fit, have long-term tie-down leases, etc. Make it a revenue generator, but the FAA won't pay for that. So I would just say that you probably need to stick to like fees versus like a lease, because if that aircraft leased, that space is then available for anybody else
It
to
would
tie
also
down
hold
there.
you liable for other things too.
In the past, I've stayed a lot of different places, you know. We've used our aircraft for just mode of transportation for everything. And I have ran into the first 5 days or 7 days free. But usually it's associated with an FBO, and if you buy fuel, they cover it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And they
Other than
probably
that,
are
I like
paving.
I like the idea of the first 7 days free. After that, you pay a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those FBOs are probably paving that apron space out in front of them. So
That's what I'm thinking.
those FBOs probably
Or putting-
lease that whole space.
Or putting the tie downs in or something.
Yeah, because then they can control who parks out in front of their FBO, et cetera. They're leasing that space out in front and they're paying for it versus
Sure.
just fully open public space that, you know, and it probably, in Montana, we typically struggle with derelict aircraft, not people really wanting to tie down for years on end. That's usually not an issue. So I don't want to open a big can of worms where it doesn't need to open, but having fees, you know, if you pay for the seven-day fee and you leave, you go fly around and come back and it's taken, right? Because anybody else can tie down there. You're not going to control that. So,
So that's the main issue essentially is not actually leasing specific spaces, but you could essentially charge for any space that's being
It's
used.
like a parking garage.
Yeah,
Yep,
right, exactly.
exactly.
Yeah,
yeah, you're not
Yeah.
reserving them spots
Yeah.
for them for, 2 months or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
still open and available.
Yeah.
It'll be concise in the pamphlet that they have to fill out when they drop their fee.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, if you're only charging $10, you probably don't really want Dwight cost efficiency to come out and try and collect $10.
No, I
right?
mean, you could put an honor box in the pilot's lounge.
Yeah. I think that probably, and then you still have some wording if there's a derelict aircraft there, you've got it documented that you can tow it, you can,
Yeah, and you could
whatever.
you could put signage up that says pay ramp fees in the pilot's lounge, and then if someone bypasses that, then they're still held to that agreement because there's signage stating as such.
Yep.
And so anything in that pamphlet, even if they disregard that, they'd still be liable for it because there's signage stating that they'd have to go past. So
I wonder, can a person further disable an aircraft from flying if it's been sitting there and deteriorating?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, we had one here for, how long was it there, Dwight? That 172,
6
the guy,
months.
yeah, at least 6 months. And then when it was gone one night.
It was operational. I mean,
Yeah.
he moved it. He moved it when we asked him to for the snow plowing purposes.
At least then you'd have a fee that you're collecting, and
Yeah.
if it's
And you're right,
airworthy and you're charging him a fee, it's still public space. I guess I don't.
And you just write it into the fee thing that during snow removal operations, you may be asked to move your aircraft to
Yeah.
comply with the FAA regulations of snow removal.
And you can
It's-
still put a limit on it too. If you
Yeah.
don't want just aircraft out there, I mean, I don't think the goal of the apron is probably to have people that say, "Oh, well, I'll just pay the daily or the monthly fee just for forever."
No,
Like that's
a lot of
seems
it's for
little-
transit aircraft.
Yeah, it's really intended for transient aircraft that are gonna, that transient might be a week or 2 weeks, where they're in the area, whatever. That I don't see any issue with that. But if it's like 6 months,
yeah.
I mean, and you're more or less, even if you're not leasing them the space, you kind of are.
Yeah.
So we don't want it to be exclusive or near exclusive use of any airport pavements.
Right.
They're supposed to be
Yeah,
public.
and your language would have to encompass all the tie-down areas because moving it from one to the next, it's semantics, but not really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like moving more from one campground spot to the next,
Yeah.
and for the whole year, just living there.
Yeah. Yeah, so the stuff that I just quoted, actually, I like because it was not in a lease. This was provisions that they actually posted.
Yeah.
And, so what we could do is take this as a starting point and then wordsmith it, get out the long-term lease or the lease issue. And just you have all the same elements, whatever we wanted to keep
Just
in
a
it.
just a daily fee service
Mhm.
with a maximum of 30 days.
Do we want to pursue this next month? Do we want to finish
Yep.
it up to this month?
Yeah, I think we keep it on
Next
the
month,
agenda.
I think,
and-
let's put on the agenda for next month.
Yeah,
and-
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Discussion decision on the fly-in for 8U8. And it sounds to me like that's still up in the air till,
Tabled till next month.
table till next month, probably.
I can just give you a little comment on it.
Sure, sure.
I did check with the Rotary because they have the Fall Fest at that time. And initially they had a little cold feet with it because they didn't want to be in competition and the more they thought about it, they thought it was a good thing to do that. And so whatever we'd like to do, they'll do what they can to help. As far as getting a shuttle service for people to come, they like to see these people coming in for fly-in, come down to the Fall Fest. But they weren't interested in trying to get a shuttle service put together. They're just too short on manpower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they certainly put it in their flyer that we have a fly-in also going and stuff. So if we decide to do that.
Yeah, and maybe we
And-
could
and I
just
think
shuttle people
4-H
with a
is
courtesy
gonna-
car.
Yeah, I also
Go.
contacted our 4-H club and they are interested in doing a breakfast. I was a little hesitant to go any further until,
Yeah.
but if they're on board with
Yeah.
doing it, then, they also proposed the idea of maybe doing a lunch as well. But I kind of explained that fly-ins typically come in the mornings just because that's a better time to fly. So, I don't know if we're trying to push this a little too much into kind of bad weather territory. I mean, some Fall Fests are really nice, some
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
really bad. So I don't know if, as a consensus, if we're on board with still doing it for Fall Fest or if we should reconsider till next spring. I don't,
When's Fall Fest?
that's the first
First-
weekend of October.
Yeah, so you could have monsoons and you can have,
Yeah, everything but,
Yeah.
everything but the final painting will probably be done.
Yeah. Yep.
The other thing that came up is that Adam reached out again to the insurance, and apparently we need to have an additional coverage to cover this type of event, and we didn't have a quote in terms of what that was. But that's something that's lying out there too that we'd have to look at to understand the
Right.
cost associated with it.
Can we table this until next month? Okay. Gravel purchase for 8U9. The next agenda.
Well, we put this back on the agenda, carry over from last month, but nothing has changed. I guess the direction I'm getting from the board is that we see if the Montana Aeronautics will help us with the grant, and that's due coming up. That won't be awarded until next February, but certainly we can wait for that. But I think that's why it was on the agenda, just to follow up on it.
Yeah, I think that's ideal. Let's see if we can't cover it there.
Well, I think the biggest thing there too was whether or not the county could, with the grant from the aeronautics, is what the buy-in would be from our side. And sorry that Commissioner Randolph isn't here, but one of the things that we looked at was to show some funding from the county as far as doing the work. The cost of the labor, the equipment and fuel to get it laid out and
Laid out and rolled.
and they would truck it in. They have the trucks to do it. But that's might be a way that we can show that we're in the have something to offer for
Do it in the spring before the spring rains, and then it'll settle good. Yeah, okay. Dwight, you're still up. Airport manager.
Okay, Dwight Thompson, Airport Manager. Not a whole lot of things going on we have control with the 8U8. 8U9, I've been working on getting the that other windsock put out together. I built a form that you could have put a tank on a pole that would have held it, and I went to mount it last week and had it set it over the plate with my tractor and had it just great. And I hit the bucket wrong. I had it pinned or jammed, and I ripped them doggone anchors right off the concrete. So I'm having to drill. Yeah, it's a whole different story. But yeah, look at that. I have had a couple of questions or requests, and I reached out to Mary, and that was with what are we going to do with the old Pappy? Just as what was told to me by Mary is that Pappy that we had is a good Pappy, and why we got a new one is because of the delay in the airport. Actually put it out there that we could get new one, so I've had some requests from people that's been using 8U9 whether or not that could be moved out to the old one, moved out to 8U9. We do have power there, and I did just contact South Hills to see what because they'll have the equipment. I think the Pappy's still down here, isn't it? I think it is. Yeah. But anyway, that was the suggestion or a comment. What are we going to do with it? So,
I need to look. You have a voltage-driven Pappy and a constant current-driven Pappy.
Oh.
And a constant current-driven Pappy requires a specialized unit
Oh, okay.
to power it. It's not just regular.
Oh, okay. I don't know what we have.
Is the power out at 8U9? Is that on the south end?
It is.
And the prevailing wind would be.
This is for the glide slope.
Oh, I know,
Oh.
but then you'd be running power
Length of the
all
runway.
the way out to the other end. So you'd have the added
If
cost.
you got a
of-
Pappy on both ends.
If you wanted Pappy on both, yeah. I didn't know about Pappy on both. The prevailing winds usually out of the north, so just.
They aren't out of the south to north. I guess.
As a rule, landing out there the last 15 years, I'd say it's 50-50. Sometimes the wind's down and I land from the north end, but otherwise, yeah, 6 of one, half dozen the other, depends on the time of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I just wonder about the added cost.
Yeah, I don't have that figure yet.
Yeah.
But the Pappy is ours. The one we have out there is ours if we want it. Coming from Ryan, he's got all kinds of stuff. Gosh. But yeah, but it would be the cost of
Yeah, what do
installation.
we do with all that extra stuff?
So if you guys want it, we tell them that it's like the beacon. We said it had to be salvaged to the owner. And if it's no plan for it, we say remove and dispose off site. South Hills puts it in his yard.
Yeah, he's
and I go steal
got
stuff from his yard all the time. Because he's like, I don't care, you can take it.
Yeah.
Came off it. So, I just took a bunch of globes up to White Silver Springs for their instrument approach, and I took them from Dylan and Conrad, and they were all sitting in South Hills' yard. And I went and scavenged
Recycled.
a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So he's really good
Yeah,
to
yeah.
work with. He's right out of East Helena, and he's just that type of guy that's like, oh, I don't care, you can go take it if you want it. So if you don't decide to use it now, I'm sure I can round one up later.
Later,
still.
yeah.
Even if, whatever, Polson doesn't want their stuff, sometimes if I think I want it, I say, well, you guys don't want it, I'm gonna say salvage to owner, which is me. And I take it, give it to Montana Aeronautics or, another airport or whatever. I will look into your Pappy. You had one of each because one
Yeah,
got
we
added
did.
later on.
Yeah.
So if it's a voltage driven, it's not a big deal. You can run it on regular power. If you run it to the opposite end of the airport, you have to have a step up, step down transformer,
Yeah.
so it's not super dim by the time you
Right.
run a mile of cable out there.
Yeah.
And you'd have that added cost to put.
So is that surface cable
Higher
or
voltage
buried?
cable end too.
Well, we put it in conduit, but it is rated for underground. So you could trench it and just bury it and put it as direct bury. If there's a short and a direct bury circuit, you either have to find it or run a new cable, because which is the reason why we
Yeah,
put
and with
conduits now.
the number of gophers that are out there, conduit is a very good idea.
Yeah,
Mm.
so you're probably looking at, I mean, $10 a foot.
But we
One conduit
one end.
and cable.
I'd say just put it on, if it's a 50-50 landing, just put it on the closest
Put it on the
side.
south end where
Well,
the power
that's
is.
what I
I
was
mean, you're
thinking.
getting a deluxe like pappy on a gravel strip.
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
yeah, I was just thinking of one,
yeah,
and
you can
again,
also use it.
I was going, if it was kind of a thing to look at, would again, apply for a grant for the installation of it.
Yeah.
Because we won't have to pay for the PAPI, you know, years down the road if we wanted to get one, if Lance is gone or something we couldn't find one, it'd be pretty pricey to get one, but if we have an opportunity to get it, and if the price is reasonable, we can put it in the grant, it might be something.
People after me, they'll find them for you.
Yeah, okay, okay. So with that, kind of brings up an interesting thing about how much use has been going on out there at Canyon Ferry, since that's about the only airport I have something to do with. So, you know, I put a game camera up, you know, last year, and I don't know if you followed some of the aviation sites for what they pub, not Montanica and I Fly Big Sky, whatever things. You know, the accident rate is increased in August always, and a lot. You know, like you mentioned, Bob, density, altitude, and such. But I did answer that, and that for people to remember Canyon Ferry as a place to come out and practice. So prior to last week, we were averaging about 8 takeoffs and landings a day out there, which is, you know, pretty good. We did have one day that there was 18. Yeah, so
Probably around the holiday, 4th of July.
it was.
Well, that,
yeah.
either that or it was during the ACE Academy.
No, it was actually. I think it was the 14th. I kind of keep track of that, but yeah, it was a. Well, it was Friday the 1st. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know what was going on there, but just people. It was a good day to be people out flying around and stuff. So,
Nice day.
and I think we've had a little bit more activity again since we mentioned you know, come out and practice. So so you're going to see all that stuff, Bob. So
I see it all the time.
yeah, yeah. So it's being used. That's for dang sure. So that's a good thing. And that's about all I have.
Okay.
Any questions?
Nope. Fuel pricing. I would think we want to just leave it right where it's at until we have access to the new ramp and the new pad and so on and so forth.
Yep.
We'll address that next month.
Yep.
Do we have some claims that we need to take care of, Aubrey?
We do. Dwight's been busy at AU9. He says he hasn't, but he has. So I have ACE, a lot of ACE. So I have one was a finance charge on an old claim for $1. The other one was on, I'm assuming you're stocking the candy, the Chewy Candy Classic Red and Garden Netting for $17.58. Then $14.97 Hemfer 2x4.
Yeah, I had to build a frame to make the
Windsock.
the windsock. Yeah, so
And
the
then
frame.
there's $67.92 for rebar and Hemfer rebar. And then that's all ACE. Then we have the R&I Rentals LLC, which was $242.50 for the equipment and the trailer. Then we had Townsend Hardware for $15.98, which was a grind disc. The Cutie Pod Petroleum on Demand came in for a total of $1,675. It was $1,195 for the base network access, and a 1-year cell plan was $480. And then Rocky Mountain supplied for some liquid nails for 1947. And that is all I have. I also have your financials as well, whenever you're ready for them.
And I did talk to the Town and Country Hardware that was charging us the finance charge, and they didn't realize that the board only meets once a month, and depending on how that comes in.
Yeah, cross sometimes.
Yeah,
Which is-
yeah.
And
So
I've been turning them in
Yeah.
as I get them now,
Yeah.
so that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But
well,
it's a bump. But
and they did deliver the excavator and come and pick it up for us, which was a nice thing. We didn't have to go get. The little pickup I have is a 1/2 ton, and it wasn't heavy enough for that excavator.
Okay, is there a motion on bills?
I'll move to make payment on the bills.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Passed.
I have one other comment. I was asking Albert if she received a phone call from. I got a phone call from a contractor in Helena, and what he was wanting to do. He knows that we're getting new hangar sites out at the airport, and he's interested in buying them or leasing them so he can build hangars and resell them. So, only comment I told him, I says, I think you have to have an airplane to build a hangar, so
There has to be an aircraft in them.
in the hangar, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but we did come to the conclusion that you could only have one at a
Yeah.
time. So if that was plausible, he could have
Yeah.
one, and then he could put his name on the list again if he
Yeah.
was able to sell it.
so he hasn't applied. I told him to ask for applications.
Yeah.
I passed the buck to Albert.
Actually, now that you bring that up, I mean, that's the thing, you know, you had the list that you provided of the people that were on the list for hangars on an email a while ago.
yeah.
I guess at this point, we have to take Cody off that list because he's already got a hangar. And anybody else that's on that list that already has a hangar. So, I guess we can't.
Unless the other ones do not want to follow through with their hangar construction, and then
Well, what I'm
we
saying,
may have
I
to-
mean, if
we may
it's
have
an-
to
if it's an
readdress this.
individual that already has a hangar, they can't be on the list unless they sell the hangar they've got. I
I
believe.
believe this is the conclusion we came to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
didn't, I'm surprised I didn't take them off. So I'll check to see if.
We'd
I
have to
can take them
review
off.
the minutes.
I guess
Yeah.
that
Well,
means
and-
that
and
we
it,
need to be
you know,
removed as
could go
well.
under something because of a.
Sorry?
I said, then that means we need to be
an
removed as
FBO
well.
type Situation.
I think.
Are you on the list? Oh, you are on the list? Oh,
But those were for, so see, I'm confused. Those were for people that, what were those for? We decided that the items of the list was kind of defunct, and now it's just whoever gets me a lease. And then we have to come before the board, and then we talk about where you want to go. So really, the
believe-
priority list is,
I believe the discussion was primarily centered on someone trying to lease all of them and then sitting on them, and then selling their lease when the
oh, that's a
popularity
different
became.
conversation. Okay,
Yeah.
that was a different conversation.
But we'd have to check the wording on it because that was a long time ago and I can't remember.
So that's a different conversation than the priority list.
I think the
That's-
discussion came that once that's why we have the time limits in
Yeah.
the agreement, was you have the 180 days to start and then you have the 180 days to finish. But I don't recall you were only allowed one.
But the
Yeah.
lease said
I
you were
feel like
only
that
allowed
would have
one.
triggered my brain, but
You
maybe.
mean one hanger?
One hangar,
per person.
Yeah, so your lease says that, one hanger per person. That's why
So-
Cody wasn't allowed.
So it does
if
say
you,
that.
if you redid the lease, say a husband and wife were to take it and say one spouse took this as a
Right.
single and the other one took this as a single, it would still be legal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
I don't know. We'd have to look back for clarification on what the discussion was.
Yeah.
I know that Adam's big concern was people piling up ground and not doing anything with
Right.
it and then selling
At a high
their
rate.
lease
Yeah.
rights is what the concern was, if I remember correctly.
And then we had the other concern where, essentially Adam made the point that within our airport documentation, no individual can actually hold 2 hangar leases. And so,
In previous documentation?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so that's how, essentially we had the discussion about Cody leasing the ground next to the hangar he has, and that was excluded by what apparently, Adam found that suggests that only 1 lease per
Per-
each individual.
Yeah, per individual.
Okay,
I was gonna comment on, yeah.
new business.
You have a comment?
No, I was just
Are
gonna,
you-
well, Bob mentioned it there, so,
Are you finished?
yeah.
Okay.
I do have a new business, if you're on
New
new business.
business.
I was contacted by Nancy Marks from the paper office on Monday to give an update on the paper, or on the airport. I tried to get Mary to give me a hand, but got very busy all of a sudden, and I got a hold of Adam, and he was taking his son to college for the first day and stuff. So I met with Nancy and gave her a little synopsis of the airport. And luckily, Buster Bullock come by, the contractor, and I flagged him down, and he gave her a self-guided tour of the airport. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of pictures and stuff she has, that
That'll be
article on the
interesting.
paper. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I do have something that I want to bring up, and it has to be under new business because I didn't get it in soon enough. In the last month and a half or so, I've seen 3 instances where some of it's people showing off, some of it's people just trying to get off the airport and get the hell out of there, and some of them are just out to lunch, departing 250 feet or thereabouts, and they're departing to the west over the top of the houses. And we're hearing complaints. Dwight had some earlier in the summer.
8U9 specifically,
8U9,
correct?
it's strictly 8U9. I seen an individual, it was, I believe, the latter part of July, it wasn't over the 4th, but it was a busy weekend. And my neighbors had come over because they'd had a big family get-together and we'd loaned them some chairs and tables and that. So they came over and brought them back. And we got unloaded, finished unloading them, and we're standing out front talking, and this plane's taking off, and he takes off to the south. But he doesn't put the throttle all the way in. I said, look at that. I don't know whether he's afraid of picking up a rock or what, but he ought to be putting the throttle in. I mean, he's mid-strip and still dinking along, just kind of hopscotching. He got right down there by the little picnic area. He slammed the throttle in, lifted off, and peeled right straight off over the top of the boating ramp and parking lot. And I don't think he was 100 feet in the air, and it was at least 30 degrees bank. And he took off. I take it he went to Bozeman. Good riddance. I hope he never comes back, because that kind of recklessness there's no reason for it whatsoever. You're looking for a big time departure stall, and right there in a very crowded area. So what I'm kind of proposing is we put it in the book, aeronautics book. I think it's about November or October that they'll come to you, Dwight, for changes. What I'm proposing is we put in there, remain on runway heading until passing 400 feet AGL, or we can round it off to 3,400 or whatever. Maintain runway heading. Stop these short departure cutoffs, and we can try. I mean, you can't keep people from killing themselves, but if we can keep them from killing somebody else, well. So, something to think about. It'll be on the agenda next month. There is one place that I've only found one, and that was in Phillipsburg, and they, departure climb to 1,000 feet, AGL before turns. Right traffic, runway 16, noise abatement. So, part of this is noise abatement, part of it's just people showing off. But,
There's a lot of campers out there too.
yes, there are. Yes, there are.
So if they did fly runway heading, it would put them more into the state section.
It would put them down into the BLM.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion.
And,
It's just reasonable.
you know, if we go 400, I don't think we need to go 1,000 feet. But if we go 400 or 500, whatever.
And it might come back to that liability thing, that if you don't have it in there, and someone does something.
Oh, yeah.
But we have to also remember that this is an uncontrolled airport.
Yeah.
And
It is.
It's getting a lot of traffic because we're closed. And so, I mean, I totally respect what you are saying, and I think that it's not safe what these individuals are doing, but I don't know if it's worth going through and micromanaging that, because most people who are going to use that are people who are landing in a field because they can, you know, like it's a gravel strip, like, you know, I just think that you're probably seeing a lot of traffic and your attention's drawn to it a lot more because.
Well, I think this individual that I think was from Bozeman, I don't think it had anything to do with the other airport being closed. I think he had people up here that were boating, and maybe he'd been out boating with them. And, because I'd only seen the plane in there the one time. But then when he took off, he had to buzz them, you know.
Mm.
But there's one way to buzz, and there's bad ways.
Yeah.
And
Well, and people like that. I
30-degree banks on liftoff. That's departure stall territory, big time.
Yeah.
Especially
I mean,
flying the power
Especially,
lines.
especially in
Yeah.
heat of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So-
I think it's a good recommendation because, you know, if you're concerned about airport liability,
I am.
and you have that statement that's actually in, you know, the airport diagram that state's putting out, then you've documented that you have an interest in noise abatement and safety. And so that way, you know, if it comes down to some sort of a case, you know, you essentially have established, you know, a behavior pattern that you want to see pilots following. And if they do exactly what you said this individual did, then obviously they're not.
They're ignoring the rules.
They're on their own because we've stated there's a noise abatement issue.
And, you know, something we might want to consider is having some signs printed up that we can put someplace there which will not interfere with the tie-down area. And there's not a problem on the other end. We can stick them out there on the edge of that area that's mowed, that's on the outside of the cones.
Yeah.
You know, I think it would alleviate the county of some problems if they have a pileup out there.
Yeah, and you also don't want to create a situation where the airport is running into trouble with the residents
No.
because you could be looking at airport closure. And so, you know, these are all things to keep in mind when you're trying to keep an airport open and you know, available for use.
I've talked ever since I've lived here that, you know, the airport was there first, and pilots are trying to, for the most part, they're going to pattern altitude before they turn out. And that's great. Get down over someplace over the BLM to the south, and you're 400 or 500 feet in the air. Well, turn out over the lake. Nobody cares.
So, Mr. Chairman, how would you like that worded? Posting minimum takeoff altitude before turnouts at 8U9? Is that what wording is? Discussion decision about posting minimum takeoff altitudes?
Yep.
Minimum turn altitude.
Minimum
Takeoff. Minimum
takeoff turnouts?
turnouts. Yeah.
Minimum takeoff turn altitude.
Turnout.
Well, see what they put here.
I just didn't know how to work.
It just says, here it says, departure climb to 1,000 feet AGL before it turns.
It's also
But
considered
you'd also
a
want to
departure
add the
procedure is what
runway heading into it also. so that they don't just depart over the area.
Right. So if we went 400 feet, you could round it out at 4,300 feet. AGL. That'd cover the majority of it. But anyway, that's for next month. Is there any additional new business? Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Hold on a second.
All right. Been moved and seconded, we adjourn. See the second meeting of September.